Alright guys, we're going to begin with the Radiant side. We're going to stack and pull. I'm going to show you a few exercises. Remember that when you begin the game, they're going to come from those two angles there. They're going to, or potentially the third, but they're basically going to try to ward your pull, your lane pull, so that they don't have to worry about being denied experience. And in reality, what you should be doing is you and your partner, whomever it is, should be defending. And at lower level and intermediate level play, you're going to only be opposed by maybe one, maybe two heroes at most. You'll never really see a full team unless you're playing a CM game or just a higher level game against a very good team. But for the most part, for the sake of this video, we're just going to pretend that we're in a lower level game. As you can see here, you will hit the camp at around 52. I want you to pull away from the opposing heroes, not into them. So I want you to continue to pull there to the left side. Now you're going to wait for the incoming wave of creep. Every 30 seconds, creep spawns after, of course, the bell sounds and the 0-0 hits. So at around 20, you want to pull right into this creep wave. It'll hit it. There we go. Alright, so what's going to happen here is you want to, again, move over to the left side away from the pull so you can see the enemy heroes that are going to try to intercept you. This is where you're going to get the majority of your experience. You are going to oftentimes be laying with a carry, and you want to give him as much gold and experience as he can, and this is how you're going to get yours. What you see me doing now is actually eating creeps so that I can do what we call a double pull. As you can see here, I'm going to come here. I'm going to kill this wave and I'm going to continue. Now, keep in mind that at level 1, you're not going to be able to kill the wave as quickly as I just did. However, that is mainly for when you pull a wave, you either single pull or you pull a wave and you know that the neutrals will die. What you do is you wait for them to die, you pull like I did, and you take that camp and you run them into the remaining creep so that they die. That's basically the way that you want to pull it. As if you look at how I pull that hard camp, that's what you want to do. You want to hit them and you want them to run straight into the neutral camp. What I'm going to do here is at 36, right when it's lined up with the tier 2 tower, this is how you can pull middle lane if you wanted to give your middle an advantage in terms of experience. This is higher level play, but it still applies. Now what you would have wanted to do here is have it double camp or a stacked. You want to stack it and then you want to pull it at 36. However, just for the sake of the video, I just single pulled it. But primarily, remember, you can gain a lot of experience this way, and this is an easy way to transition to mid lane if you're ganking, because what's going to end up happening is their creep are going to be at the tower, so he obviously is going to get a few pot shots at the tower, and when he comes out, you can just disable him in any way. I'm going to pull the hard camp. You can pull the hard camp since the tier 3 is where the creep pretty much spawn, and every 30 seconds they spawn at around 31, 32. Really 32, because as you see here, I'm going to be a little bit late, but I wanted to just give you guys a little taste of, you know, all the potential camps you can pull on this side. This is definitely an advanced pull, but I just want you guys to have the knowledge in regards to the fact that you can actually pull multiple camps into lanes, not just the short lane. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to pull from the dire side. It really is just going to be a replica. Obviously, the geography changes a little bit, the directions change, but the same idea applies here. You're going to hit it at around 51 to 54. You're going to pull away from the enemy heroes, not towards them. You're going to stack, and then you're always going to pull. Not always, because if you look, you're still protected by the tower in your lane, but use your best judgment. If it's at the halfway mark, you definitely want to pull. If it's anywhere, you know, close to your tower but not being hit by a tower, you're pretty safe, so it's pretty good for you not to pull. You can just wait, but for the sake of the video, of course, we're just going to show you how to pull. So this is what you should be doing. This is how you should be farming as a 5, as a hard support. this is where the enemy heroes would come. So you want to stand exactly where I am, basically, and just try to last hit as best as you can. This is going to be a different form of a double pull, but you're going to pull back-to-back waves. Now, what's going to happen here is this wave is going, this neutral camp is going to die, so you want to double pull. Now, I make a little bit of an error here, which you'll see. I just misjudged it. I wasn't looking, if you look at my camera, I wasn't particularly looking at the HP until it was too late. You want to focus a little bit more on the HP. I took way too long to actually pull this camp. This is a common error that players will make. I obviously just made it. So this is something you want to stay away from. As you can see, I ended up salvaging it by pulling 2 of the range creep, but that is not that's not as was intended. Okay, so now you can see here, I pull again at 21. This camp will die. So what I'm gonna have to do is make sure I get it right this time and not screw up, because I don't want to push my lane, and I want to make sure that, you know, obviously I do the best job that I can. So I pull it on time and in perfect unison with the death of the original neutral camp. Then, as you can see, now the others follow, and that's pretty much all she wrote. The next part of this video will be the hard camp pull into the lane, which is extremely important. At around when it's around 50, or excuse me, 50, 23, 24, around where the creeper about to hit the tower, you want to actually pull it. But just make sure, if there's a magic number, it is around 23. You hit the camp at 23 and you proceed directly to the lane to cut them off. That is a hard camp pull on the dire side. Very, very important. All right, now I want to get our feet wet with warding. Keep in mind that this is, I'm going to run through this. The objective of this is just to give you spots. You can look at the mini map and you can have these spots. There'll be an extensive warding guide somewhere down the road, but for now, as the 5, I just want you to keep these spots on the primary. All right, well, again, you have the 2 access lanes that they can come through. You want to protect yourself there, but here's where you're warding. After you defend, obviously, their wards, you repel their wards, and these are the wards you want. You want to ward right here on the cliff. It'll give you sight of their access into your jungle as well as the rune. And then right there, that is a very important ward, because that's the lane ward. That gives you sight of them and their tower for TPs or any of that stuff throughout the entire laning phase. Both of them are crucial wards when you are supporting a carry. You can place a ward at Roshan here. I'm obviously using sentries since I can't have that many wards as natural ward spots. You can also ward here. All 4 of those are legitimate, you know, beginner, intermediate place to ward. If you want to place a sentry, place it here. This will give you 3 of the 4 spots. The spot right there to my right, the uphill by their ancients, and right on top of the walkway at Roshan. However, it won't see that one right there, which I walked by. But for the most part, if you place a sentry there in the middle, you can de-ward any of those 3 spots that they may have potentially warded on. Obviously, the one a little bit to the left of that is more of a spot where you would ward, but sometimes they do ward, but don't really. It's really not that big a deal. At lower level play, you're not going to really see wards that are so eloquently placed. They're just going to drop them wherever that they can see the rune, and because they think it's, you know, that's the most important thing. If you wanted a ward for your mid, that's the ward I would place right there, where I place the observer ward right next to your ancients. I believe it gives you offensive and defensive sight, but you can, you know, ward in those other 2 places, as well as right there, right above that lane. That's a ward for your mid to see their mid on the uphill, for whatever reason, to do damage, to see any impending ganks from the dire jungle into your lane. You can also ward right there or right up here in the cliff. You are less likely to be de-warded on the cliff, which is why I place an observer and not a sentry. You can also ward over here, but keep in mind this ward will not see the rune. If you are going to ward for your suicide laner, you want to ward right there. You can also ward right here if you know you already have wards bottom. You can also ward here if you know, there's a ganker in the jungle. I don't believe I placed it. Yes, I did. Right there. Those are, I mean, again, keep in mind, look at the mini map. These are all the potential early game ward spots that you can place, both offensively and defensively. If there's an Enchantress or Chen ganking in the jungle with smokes and constantly beating up your mid lane, you can place a sentry or a ward right there where I opened the cursor. For now, I'm just going to continue pushing just because I can. But again, I want you guys to focus on the mini-map, not what I'm doing on my screen. Look at the mini-map. These mini-map, all of these are wards where you can place. Now, these are pushing wards with all tier 1s down. You can place it right there because, again, it'll give you sight on what's behind the tower a little bit, as well as any incoming TPs. You want to place a ward behind you. You can also place sentries there as well. And you can place a ward here. Those wards, that circle I made, were really just because you want to have all the angles protected where they can gank you. So that ward right there by the tower, we'll see behind this tower. This ward right here, that's another blind spot. That's basically the window that they have in the area, the surface area that they have to gank you. So you want to make sure that you have the sight there when you're pushing, and you know it's going to be a 5-on-5 push action, not when, you know, heroes are dead. Obviously, you don't need to place those wards. But this is just for when you know it's going to be a 5-on-5 defense of the base on their side, and you want to offensively take their lanes. These are the wards, or take their mid. These are the wards that you can place in order to prevent them from being able to get the jump on you. You'll cover all your angles this way. Now I'm gonna show you where to ward, what to do when you are pushing the top lane. Okay, so you would hopefully want to have these wards already. You're gonna place a ward there, which will see the connection from the river behind you, and you want to place a ward on that hill. That basically gives you sight of everything that can gank you, or any direction that they can come from, albeit the south or the east, while you guys are pushing that tower. So the best thing to do is just have those two wards placed so that you can see if anybody's going to come up behind you, if they're split up, what direction they're coming from, who's coming, and in what order. And hopefully that'll give you the best opportunity, of course, to take this tier 2 tower. Moving forward, I'm going to transition bottom here shortly. This is a little bit more interesting because of the Fire War and because of the trees and the way that the Dire side is set up with their ancients. There's a lot of avenues where they can come from. From my experience, I think the best path that I've seen that needs to be covered are the ones transitioning from their tier 2 middle to obviously the tier 3 on closer to your side, right there behind you. Obviously you don't want to get smoked and they can just turn around and come from the river. You want to have a ward there. You want to already have a ward placed here. This ward probably should be up if you know you're going to do it, but I mean, if not, these are all the potential. This ward right here I think is the important one, as well as the ward that I placed second. The ward behind you is totally optional, and that should only be a rev ward because you just want to be able to see, smokes or invis heroes coming up behind you like a Riki. But this ward is important because that ward right there sees all those avenues, and that's an observer ward, of course. I don't mean to confuse you guys with the difference in some rev wards being actual, placeholder for wards, but I mean, of course, you're only allowed to purchase a limited amount of wards. So, but yeah, those two I think are the most crucial. The ones more west, obviously excluding the one on the hill. That ward should have probably already been up, or a ward around there so you can see the backside of Roshan. As you can see, yeah, obviously couldn't buy more wards, which is why some of it's a little confusing. But again, take a look at the map. Those two wards closest to their secret shop, either one of those wards need to be placed when you're pushing that tower, that tier 2 tower. Alright, now as I was showing earlier, but I couldn't, give you an exact view. This is the sight that you'll get with wards. Obviously, when you place an observer, you'll get a larger circle of vision. But that's why that ward is so important when you're pushing that tier 2, or yeah, that tier 2 long lane from the Radiant, because that tier 2 top, there's just a lot of ways where they can kind of gank you when you're trying to take that tower. So you want to make sure you have enough sight. Obviously, without observer or without rev wards, if they smoke, you're going to be screwed. You can also place a ward here when you're tier 3 chasing, I'm going to call it, because that's what you do. You pretty much chase heroes that try to go back and forth, and you know, it's like a topsy-turvy there. But you need sight, of course, so in order to place that ward, you're going to need sight. But you can place it there and it'll give you vision. Alright, these are wards for the Dire. Now, if you are a support on the Dire side, these are the wards that you want to place. You want to place one at the rune, and you want to place one right there above those steps. Again, that will give you sight of the tower and any TPs and where they are at all times when you're stacking and pulling. Now, this ward, again, is one of my favorite wards, obviously, even on the Dire side, because it gives you offensive and defensive vision. You can still place that ward here if you'd like, but it's really not necessary. You probably don't want to place both the ward at the rune and then at the ancients at the same time in unison, but those are the two potential ward spots. You can ward here for your mid lane so that he's protected against any ganks, but that one is, I mean, again, I'm just showing you these spots again. These both work. This ward is probably the best ward for the Dire side if you're going to ward the bottom. But like I said, these are again very common wards for lower level play and stuff. And you can place a counter ward here, and you will again see the 3 that I was discussing. You won't see that one right there at the bottom left of the screen, but it's, I mean, it doesn't matter. For the sake of this, we're just gonna run through this again so you guys can have it embedded in your head that these are the potential ward spots that you can place. You can also place a sentry there, that'll catch that one there, but it is what it is. Now we are moving on to the Dire pushing. So again, if you're gonna take the bottom tower, you can place a ward here to see anybody coming up. You can also, and as you can read, this is for bot wards when pushing. As I previously mentioned, you can also maybe have a ward here. Well, that ward should already be up. So those are the 2 wards that you should see. This is a ward where you want to place if you have the opportunity to, because this will give you, obviously, that, and the ward next to that bot tower will give you complete vision of anybody coming to defend it at any angle. From anywhere on the map, albeit the Radiant small camp, transitioning through their jungle, or straight from the tier 2. As you can see, don't really worry about what I'm doing. I'm just running around like a doofus. Pay attention to the mini map. This is what's most important for support players. Anybody running the 5, you need to know these spots. Now, when pushing this tower, you want a ward behind you where you place it for the tier 1. That ward will still suffice. You probably would want a rev ward as well in case any smokes come from the opposing side, the small camp all the way around. But you want to also maybe have a ward there as well already set. So if you have a Furion or anybody that could have gotten over there, you want to place that ward. But that ward specifically is to protect both, or to take both the tier 2 middle and tier 2 bottom. If you're gonna push middle, you can definitely ward that the hill above that tier 2 camp, because it will give you vision of anybody behind there waiting. So if there's a push on the other team, you can look for incoming hooks, or you can, again, see how many heroes are there, what angles they're coming from, who's coming from where, and all that stuff. You will also be able to see anybody hiding in the jungle like a Pudge or whomever trying to hook. So again, keep an eye on the mini map. Keep these placeholder wards in your head. When you're going to push this tier 3, I always like to put a sentry back there because of smoke, or smokes, or invis heroes and your blind side. You can just place a sentry there. You don't need to place a ward. I feel, wards are wasted. That's probably the only, this in my opinion is the easiest tower to push, because it can only come from two directions: behind you, obviously, or in front of you. And behind you, I don't mean behind you the long way going towards the tower. I mean actually that access where you put the rev ward, because they're gonna obviously try to get tricky, or they're just gonna man up and come from the front. Every time you take down a tower, please place a sentry or an observer ward. Place a sentry if you're the team that got their tower pushed. Make sure you have a sentry there in case of people trying to smoke in and backdoor, or invis heroes looking to gank, like a Nyx or a Riki or Gondar or some stuff. But if you are on the other team, you want to have a observer ward there so that you can see the action in the base. You can see if there are some heroes just waiting in the back or whatever. But always place an observer if you're the aggressive team pushing the tier 3 once the tier 3 is down. Or place a sentry if you're the defensive team after that tower goes down. Now I'm going to place some dire defensive wards when you get pushed. I like to place, depending on where you're getting pushed, but if you're going to get pushed in your tier 2, either top or middle, pretend all the tier 1s are down for the sake of this video. This will protect your tier 2 top and tier 2 middle. So I really like wards here when you're playing defensively, and they unfortunately maybe have map control right now at the point of the game. So you're going to want to do this. You're going to want to place, obviously, these two wards here. This will protect the dire, like I said, the dire top tier 2 or the dire bottom. And if your tier 1 is up, if your tier 1 is up mid lane, this will always help. The tier 3, you want to place this ward. This ward, again, is to protect all avenues in there by the ancients, since there's a lot of trees and there's a lot of alleys. And it's both helpful offensively if you're radiant pushing, and defensively if you're dire defending. Again, these are wards that probably should already be placed if you're on the defensive. Those two wards right there will protect you from these two avenues. Again, look at the mini map, not on Furion. Now, let's just say for the sake of this, you only have tier 3. You only have your tier 3 towers. You want to make sure you okay, I'm assuming in this yeah, okay. So all of their lanes are pushing in. You're being pushed. They just finished Roshan or whatever.